welcome back to a brand new, hot off the press London weekend show. And from that bit of film we just flashed at you, I expect you'll be able to guess what we're taking a look at this week. Since our last show in the summer, punk rock's really taken off, both in London and in New York. And although anyone thinks punk is that great a name for it, it seems to have stuck. Punk magazine comes out in New York, and Sniffing Glue is the punk paper here, despite its ill-advised title. So it has its own magazines, its own bands, its own devoted fans, and of course its own style of dress. Even the conventional music papers like Melody Maker and NME have written columns about the latest cult, and it's just popping up in the national press. But what's punk all about? We went to a gig by the Sex Pistols just off Leicester Square to see what a punk rock evening was like.
We're so pretty, I'm so pretty.
Well, the first thing you notice is that punk rock fans look as devastating as their music sounds. Torn clothes are held together with safety pins. There's lots of black leather and bizarre hair, and the whole idea is to shock outsiders.
Saying we're not going to take this anymore, we're not going to take this shit people are dishing out. In that sense it's violent, but it isn't hurting people, it isn't really hurting people. It's just some of the bloody fools that come along and see it, you know, and react against it.
Listen, I went to see Led Zeppelin film last week. I don't, you know, Peter Grant could beat me up, but I fell asleep 4 rows from the front.
You don't yawn, you don't have to pay £5, and you're not one of 10,000 people.
What's your dress made from?
You know, you feel one of the crowd.
What do you do?
What do I do? Typing.
You're not a mouse, you know, like Mike Oldfield fans, you know?
It's a different ball game now. It's all over that. It's all over.
Well, people have got worked up over plenty of musicians, from Elvis Presley wiggling his pelvis in the 50s to the Rolling Stones 10 years later. So what have the Sex Pistols got that provokes the same reaction? You would have thought that people couldn't be upset by much in 1976. Let's take a look at the path of pop music over the last 15 years and try to discover why punk rock has found so many fans.
It's the Beatles!
In the days of the beach boom in the early 60s, there was a feeling of great involvement with a new sort of music. These Beatle fans, filmed in the Liverpool Cavern Club when the group was still unknown, really were close to their idols. It didn't take much equipment to start your own band, or much in the way of skill. The idols of the day were reasonably easy to see in a small club and at a price which their fans could afford. At the time, many middle-aged people found bands like the Stones, the Pretty Things and so on ugly and threatening. This helped the fans identify even more strongly with their music. And some groups like the Who came from the same background and were singing about the same world their audience lived in and understood. But as time passed and the bands grew wealthier, they became more remote from their audience. For many, this film is the closest they will get to a Led Zeppelin concert. Admission prices have gone up and the music has become complicated and less accessible to would-be musicians.
Hey, mama said the way you move will make you slap, gonna make you groove.
In reaction to this increasing remoteness of musicians from their fans, pub rock circuits developed in the 70s, where anyone could buy a drink and see a band. And recently, a return to basic gutsy rock and roll has taken Dr. Feelgood out of the pubs and up to the top of the album charts. But the Feelgoods are probably the exception, because by and large, pub rock bands have never succeeded outside their pubs. I asked the Sex Pistols why they thought pub rock had failed to catch on.
Most of their music was just based around old standards, like Bees Make Honey and bands like that. They just played everybody else's songs that everybody been playing for like 15 years. There's a couple of bands like the Kilburns, really good.
They were all mostly country and western and rhythm and blues. And what the hell good juice is that, man?
What was needed was a style of music that was as easy to play as pub rock, but rejected the past and had a new identity of its own. What musicians do you rate? I mean, who do you think is a good singer?
I don't. I don't have any heroes. They're all useless. Well, there's no bands around, is there? None. None that are accessible.
Well, before you...
Unless you pay a $5 to see them, and then you can't see them.
And what sort of people came to see you in the beginning?
Well, no one knew us at the beginning.
It was just whoever was there when we turned up. Because we used to turn up with our equipment and just like crash in and do the gigs. Nobody knew we was playing until we got there. We didn't even know, actually.
Well, you reckon that was the only way to get a gig, was just to turn up first? And...
Yeah, that's how we can get gigs.
Fucking pushing.
Still
can't get them.
No, Sean.
How comes
Come on, Johnny.
No.
What, when you stood up and started singing the first time, what happened? I mean...
Go on, John, go on.
It was wonderful.
No, come on.
People loved me. They threw flowers.
Well, look, I saw you the 6th time, and people were quite shell-shocked.
Well, then you know yourself, don't you?
But what sort of people come to see
people at
you?
home, though, Johnny.
I don't know, just bored people. Bored out their brains with hippies.
What's this thing you got against hippies?
They're complacent.
You were just attacking Top of the Pops and the sort of bands that are on there. What, do you think they're relevant to the kids 16, 17?
Of course they're not. Relevant to their mums and dads, but that's about all.
What about bands like Rod Stewart?
What about him?
Mums and dads, yeah. He's all round, isn't he? All round entertainment.
He's an old
Things really started to move for the Sex Pistols when they were spotted by promoter Ron Watts, who gave them a booking at the 100 Club in Oxford Street.
I saw them at High Wycombe, and it was interesting because they really managed to upset the crowd, or most of the crowd, and they had some of their followers with them who looked like people I'd never seen before in my life.
What did they look like?
Oh, amazing. They had this multicoloured hair and they had clothes on which had been ripped to pieces and put back together with safety pins. And it was very bizarre. It's beyond anything that I'd seen.
Beyond anything that had hit High Wycombe before?
Yeah, probably since as well.
What happened when they played down here?
Well, the first time they played, their audience turned out, the Bromley lot with the multicoloured hair again and what have you. And it was good. We hadn't seen anything like it, and so we thought, well, we'll give it a try again. And there weren't very many people come in at first, you know. The first sort of half dozen gigs were very average in support, you know. Any other band would have done as many people. But it's the actual followers that did it, you know, that turned the key.
We've been there for 5 years or more just waiting for this to happen.
and now it's happened.
It's like it's only a punk way of dressing. It's just dressing exactly how you want to look, and finding clothes that are original, not like wearing everything that everyone else wears. Looking just a bit different.
Have you tried to get a band together?
Yeah, I did the 100 Club, the punk festival. Siouxsie and the Banshees.
What did you sing?
The Lord's Prayer via Twist and Shout, Knocking on Heaven's Door, and a bit of Deutschland, Deutschland, über alle.
And what went down the best?
All of it. It got boring in some parts, but it picked up.
And who was backing you up?
Sid Vicious on drums, Steve Spunker on bass, Marco on guitar, and me just doing the vocals.
Are you a singer?
Yeah.
Had you sung before?
Not on stage, no.
Did you think that was important?
No.
You can rehearse for 2 days in the garage and not having played before and go out and do a gig. It was like that before, though, wasn't it? The skiffle was like that. The skiffle was very important in British music. That's where all the groups came from.
How can you tell a good punk rock band from a bad one?
Well, the audience judge that, I think.
I mean, what do you think's produced punk rock? Why has it sort of sprung up?
It had to. It was the only thing that could happen. I mean, it was the only thing that didn't come from the industry. It came from the kids themselves. Something had to come from the kids. The industry had run out of ideas. That's why they had rock and roll revivals every other year.
But what is it that the punk rock bands are saying that makes them a part and a reflection of their generation? We'll be back with the words of the musicians and their audiences, and, most important, more of the music itself after a break.
The London Weekend Show, 2278 221176, Part 2, Take 1.
Welcome back, punksters. In the first half, we saw how rock stars have become more and more distant from their audiences. Some are tax exiles and live abroad in California or Europe. Others only appear on stage in vast stadiums where tickets cost plenty and they appear as small dots on the horizon. So it's not surprising that bands like the Sex Pistols, who play in clubs that anyone can afford to go to, are becoming more and more popular. There's also a new feeling that you don't have to be a special sort of person to pick up a guitar or stand in front of a mic and sing. In punk rock, anyone can have a go. Punk in England is still growing, but it has bands like the Buzzcocks from Manchester and the Suburban Studs from Birmingham. Here in London, apart from the Pistols, there are about a dozen or so imitators. Either established bands cashing in on what they see as a punk craze, or other people treading the same route as the Pistols from Dole Queue to club dates. Bands like The Damned, The Vibrators and Clash, who've been playing for about 6 months. What is there in their apparently negative and destructive lyrics for fans to identify with? I went along to the rehearsal rooms in Camden to ask Clash.
Why do you think punk rock started in the first place?
Well, because it's like, it's got nothing to do with them anymore when like Rod Stewart gets up there and starts like going on with his string orchestra, you know what I mean? It's not what you feel like. So you've got to have some music what you feel like. Otherwise you go balmy, don't you?
I think their attitudes really stink. Now anyway, there's just like, there just has to be new groups and then that's what you got.
The Sex Pistols say they hate hippies, everything they stand for, and the hippies are what went wrong with music. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's right. I think that's where the complexities came in, you know? And people thought, oh, we better buy a Moog synthesizer or we'll get caught out, you know? Like maybe...
If there's any around, we should, like, you know, jump into action immediately. Because, you know, I suppose it ain't their fault. They've had too much dope.
Yeah, lying on the floor and looking at the ceiling.
But it's another generation to yours.
Yeah, one that went wrong.
What sort of things do you write about?
What's going on at the moment?
Like what?
Like what? Career opportunities. White Riot.
Yeah, tell me about White Riot. What's it about?
Notting Gate.
Like, you know that riot they had? Well, we was down there, me and him, and we got searched by policemen looking for bricks, like, and then later on we got searched by Rasta looking for pound notes in our pockets, so...
And all we had was bricks and bottles. But still.
But one of the lines in it is everybody does what they're told to.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, do you think what's happened to a lot of young people is that they've been pushed around a lot?
Yeah,
and
well,
that your
like,
music's a bit
the
of
school I went to, right? I mean, they're sort of like, all the kids are supposed to sort of like be factory product, you know, that sort of stuff. And like, the school's sort of built, it's a real sort of depressing school and that. And you go there, you don't learn nothing. All you're sort of like working for is just to go into the factory which is around the corner, or something like that. And, well, most of the mates I know are all working in the factory.
Are there a lot of your fans on the dole? I mean, do they feel the same way?
Yeah, else they wouldn't come to our gigs, would they?
If they weren't on the dole, would they be your fans?
Well, I mean, if there was jobs, then they wouldn't be on the dole. And maybe we'd be singing about love and kissing or something.
So the new groups claim they're singing about the situations that they and their fans find themselves in. Well, are they? The Sex Pistols' first single is aggressively called Anarchy in the UK. But what do they mean by anarchy? What do you mean? Do you mean you actually want to destroy them, or you want to
wipe them out?
He wants their autograph. Complacent, apathetic, old walk up and down and do nothing and complain about everything. And watch Top of the Pops and send their boring little letters into Melody Maker week after week. That's what I want to get rid of.
How do you want to get rid of it, though?
Push them out.
Destroy them, eh?
Destroy them one way or another. Not violent. Get rid of them.
But don't you get off on causing fights?
Where you heard that from?
Oh, gosh, it's really
rubbish. No, we're nice.
It's just the same as when it was before, when they had the Stones and the Who and they came along and they thought they were great because they destroyed everything that went before them. But now they can't take it because we're destroying everything that's gone before us. That's all it is.
It's not violence, it's just excitement causes it most of the time, you know. When we're playing, people get excited and worked up.
That's because people aren't even used to people standing up and jumping around. They just want them to sit down all the time. And as soon as anything other than that happens, they get really kind of shocked.
Considered violent.
Yeah, it's cool. If someone stands up there and goes, yeah, it's...
Go on, look, he's starting. Go on, get him out.
The usual.
The tales of violence at punk rock gigs may have been exaggerated. exaggerated, but they were undoubtedly based on fact. And they've led to a situation where some fans expect and even demand trouble. Ron Watts, who first introduced punk rock to London, now supports a ban on it. I asked him if he wasn't going to lose out by banning such a booming fashion.
Yeah, that's true. But the club has a long-standing reputation, and there is a lunatic fringe that follows them that, you know, that are liable to be violent, and we can't have those people.
But when the hysteria that always surrounds a new fashion, be it clothes or music, dies down, what's left? And is the much publicised violence at punk rock gigs really any worse than at other equivalent events? So far, the punk scene seems to have avoided the premeditated confrontations of the Teddy Boys and of the Mods and Rockers. Is Johnny Rotten the new David Bowie, or will all his tough lyrics and aggression just look dated next year? Right now, the punk musicians can make out that they're just the same as their fans, because most of them still are. And they can sing about getting rid of the establishment because they're not part of it. But what happens if they do make it and get big and successful? What would success do to Johnny Rotten?
I mean, the day Johnny Rotten goes back on the words he writes in his songs is the day he dies, and I know that for a fact. So it's a ridiculous question to ask. You know, they're just very, very committed. They're in this band because they're committed. They formed it. It's the reason they're the whole founders of the new scene in music, because they thought, we're bored with what's happening, we're going to do something. That's why they are the best band in it, because they're the originators.
Don't accept the old order. Get rid of it.
What do you think about bands like the Stones?
I don't. I don't even consider them a band. They're more like a business.
What a business?
Yeah, but surely by making a record, you're on the way to becoming part of the system.
No. Not if you don't let yourself.
But supposing your record's a success.
Yeah.
I mean, which there are big chance it will be.
Oh,
and
yeah,
okay,
everyone.
Supposing you make a lot of money, how are you going to be different from the Stones?
I don't need a Rolls Royce. I don't need a house in the country. I don't need to live in the south of France. I'm happy as I am, and I'm going to carry on.
Finsbury Park with these bands.
Don't live in Finsbury Park.
boy. No boy.